All right, we're going to talk about shape and form now. Shape is a two dimensional area defined in some way. So, if you want to know what the dimensions are, the first dimension is width, and then the second dimension is height. So, how are they defined? So, we can either define a shape as with an outline, or we can define a shape as a silhouette. So, this image by Moreau, you can see there's both outlines and silhouettes of the shapes. And then when you have like even these 3D objects of the people here, because they're backlit, it washes out the color and it makes them look flat. So it makes them look like a two dimensional shape. Again, we have the two dimensional shape. These are like silhouettes. The boats there is like a silhouette. And then even because there's such an atmosphere, like you see the fog and the mist, the factories in the background also become a shape as a silhouette. And then Aaron Douglas uses silhouettes in his artwork. If you look way in the distance of this Bruegel painting, it looks like the figures are in silhouette. Jacob Lawrence uses silhouettes in his artwork as well. Geometric shapes are precise shapes that can be described using mathematical formulas. So if you take, a shape that has four equal sides and four equal angles or four 90-degree angles, what do you get? You get a square. You know that pi r squared determines the radius or the surface, the area of a circle. And then so there's other mathematical formulas that give us these geometric shapes. And the book calls these manufactured shapes. So in our semester, we have a lot of, especially like modern art, uses geometric shapes in their artwork. So Rothko uses rectangles and squares in his art. Ellsworth Kelly uses geometric shapes in his artwork. Frank Stella uses geometric shapes in his art. This artist uses geometric shapes. Delaunay uses geometric shapes, and even if you look at like the Northern Renaissance, how they have those sharp folds in their fabric, the fabric looks very geometric because of these sharp folds. There's a lot of triangular shapes that are in there. Again, with Delaunay, he likes shapes. That's one of the elements that he works a lot with. And then in the Picasso, if you flatten the shapes of these women, and then make them more angular, these women look very geometric and not very natural at all. You can find shapes in works of art. For example, not only with the rectangles in the background, but Christ makes this triangular shape with his body. And Raphael definitely composes his artworks in the forms of triangles. All right, the book also discusses what freeform shapes are, and these are irregular and uneven shapes often found in nature. So, like the shape of a cloud, right? And the book calls these natural. The shape of a tree, the shape of a dog, the shape of a person. These are all natural or freeform shapes. When I was in college, we called them organic shapes or biomorphic shapes. So Moreau definitely uses freeform shapes in his artwork. Matisse also uses very similar freeform shapes. And with Delaine, the shapes of the mountains in the distance, the people, the boats, these are all freeform shapes. Toulouse-Lautrec flattens his artwork and uses the shapes of the figures in here. Again, like I said, these figures are flattened because they're backlit, and that causes them to be shapes. But these are good examples of freeform shapes. The figure here is backlit, and therefore there's not much modeling, or it doesn't look very 3D. So he looks like a freeform shape. She is flattened, and even the figure in the background is flattened, and then the patterns that are on the fabric are flattened, and so there's a lot of very flat, freeform shapes in this image. The silhouette of the figure here is flattened and a freeform shape. Aaron Douglas uses freeform shapes in his artwork. Gorky's shapes are freeform. Lawrence's shapes are freeform. Oh, that's not Caravaggio. This artist's shapes are freeform. Debufay's shapes are freeform. And if you look at the shape of the cypress tree in the foreground, that is definitely freeform. And then if you look at the little shapes that make up the portraits of these close paintings, these are freeform shapes. Warhol's shapes are freeform. Lichtenstein's shapes are freeform. So then let's discuss what a form is. A form is object having three dimensions. Well, we know what the first two dimensions are. This is the width and height. But then what's the third dimension? The third dimension is depth. So if you can imagine this this arrow coming out at us from the background. So that's what the arrow is trying to say. So if this circle is a geometric shape, what would be the geometric form? So it would be something like a sphere, because if you take a circle and give it a third dimension, it becomes a sphere. Or it could be a cylinder. That's also a circle becoming a form. Or any of these other variations can be, if you turn the cone in and look at the end of it, it's definitely a circle. All right, what about this cube or this square? Right, if you have a square shape, then what would its form be? Well, it would be a cube, or it could be a rectangular prism, or any of one of these other variations of the four-sided shape. All right, and then if you have a triangle, what would its form be? Well, you can make a pyramid out of it, like a square pyramid, or a tetrahedron, or a cone, or a triangular prism, or any of these other forms that are triangular in nature. They can all be the form of a triangle, which is a shape. So, car dealers, or not car dealers, but car manufacturers can use geometric forms in their artwork. So, like this Tesla truck definitely uses geometric forms and shapes in the design of the truck. So, an artist, David Smith, he uses geometric forms in his sculptures. This is a sculpture in the sculpture garden of the Museum of Fine Arts here in Houston, and that definitely uses geometric forms. Another sculpture in the sculpture garden of the Museum of Fine Arts here in Houston. This is a figure that is made out of geometric forms. This Newman sculpture is made out of geometric forms. The Andy Warhol's Brillo boxes are geometric forms. Man Ray's Indestructible Object is a geometric form. This is not Caravaggio, this is De Chirico. So this is you can see the cylinder in the center of the picture, and that is a geometric form. Monet's haystacks are cylinders topped with a cone. So those are geometric forms. The De Chirico, you can see the sphere down below. And then the plaster cast part of the sculpture, that's not a geometric form. That's a organic form. And then on this Fouquet painting, the breasts look like spheres. So they're very geometric. Now, if you have organic shapes, what would be the form version of an organic shape? Well, it'd be organic forms. So these amoebas here on the left would translate into like an amoebic form on the right. If you take a shape of a dog, well, the form of a dog would have the highlights and shadows because it goes back into space. And sometimes car manufacturers will use organic forms in their car designs. So this sculpture at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston Sculpture Garden is by Moreau is a perfect example of an organic form. Debufay sculpture has organic forms in it. This crag sculpture is organic. Any time you have a sculpture of a human being, that would be organic. So all these portraits and figures, these are all organic forms. And then you can get abstract where it's like not quite a person, not quite an animal. and not quite a unalive thing. So Bacon uses his imagination, but he works in organic forms. And then you can see the forms within the Boccioni sculpture or the Boccioni painting that shows movement. But you can see it almost looks like sheets of paper that are like curved, all jumbled up together. Dali definitely uses organic forms or free form forms. And really, anytime you have a image of a person where you can see the chiaroscuro, the highlights and the dark and the shadows, that's we're talking about form. So if you look at the transition from the highlight to the shadow, on his biceps, on his face, on his hands, on his legs, on his chest, all these show that it's a form that it goes back into space because it catches the light, and then there's shadows. You can see the figure underneath the fabric. You can see the knees and the buttocks of this guy, and that's definitely free form forms or organic forms. And then this whole history of paintings of naked ladies. The artist is practicing their technique on painting the human form. Modersohn Becker uses the human form in her artwork of the woman and the baby. Again, the human form shows up in all kinds of ways in artwork. And you can really see the chiaroscuro showing the highlights and the shadows in this one, and it shows the human form. And here again, you can see the exaggerated highlights and shadows showing the forms that are in this painting. And then, so what do different shapes, forms, and spaces express? So, curved shapes express, and curved shapes and forms are comfortable and soothing to the eye. So, if you can imagine holding this Egyptian sculpture, the gentle curve of the back of this hippo, it would be a pleasant experience to touch this hippo. It would not be painful. Whereas if you were to touch this object, it looks like it would be a painful experience because of the sharp lines that are in it. So zigzag shapes and forms remind the viewer of sharp, jagged things that are painful. And then geometric shapes and forms that express mechanical perfection are unemotional. So Brancusi's, this is a torso, so it's supposed to be like the abdomen and top of the legs of a figure, but it doesn't look like that at all. It just looks like tubes that are at a joint, and it doesn't look human much at all. It looks like almost like a robot or a C-3PO body part. Again, and this one is kind of interesting because the geometric forms take all the humanity away from this figure, but his pose, of running through, it looks either joyous or that he's like trying to run fast, and so you have this uh, um, contrast of being anti-human and human at the same time. And then the book talks about density, and so the degree of compactness of a substance. So dense materials and closed shapes and forms are solid and heavy and seem unyielding. They refer to protection, keeping away, staying out, closed doors, closed drapes. So if you look at this figure right here, it's a woman that has wrapped herself up, and it looks like she does not want to be not want to be bothered. Do not come close to me. She's put up her walls, and she does not want to be um, uh, approached. And you can see it again. That this Mayan sculpture of Quetzalcoatl is very closed. It doesn't look friendly at all. And the Brancusi is very closed. It almost looks like a cube, and it looks very rock-like. This Catlett sculpture is closed. That it's just facing all. as you walk around this, you're only seeing the backs of people, not the fronts of people. So it's a very closed off form. So if you look at, we're going to think about difference between closed and open. You can see these two buildings. Like the building on the left is closed because you cannot see inside. It's not welcoming. It looks very intimidating. But the one on the right is very open. It allows you to see inside, and so it's inviting for you to come in. And so here's this an artist who plays with this idea of closed and open shapes and forms. He takes this uh, scooter, and he also does the same thing with VW Volkswagen. And he shows it in its closed form, which is on the left, and then he begins to take it apart, and he shows it on its open form, so you can see all the different pieces uh, separately. Calder uses open forms in his sculptures. It invites you to see within. Henry Moore uses open space in his sculptures. Again, these empty spaces on the inside invite you to see in. So then, like sculptures like this Bernini sculpture are very open because the arms are out, stretching out, and they invite the eye to come in. It's not closed off. It doesn't want you to go away. It wants you to come in and see all the different parts of this sculpture. All right, that'll be it for now.